Hello. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about the Narcissists Conditional Asterisk. The purpose of this video is to enable you to understand how, from our perspective, we are not bound by the things that we say and do. We have an inalienable right to say one thing and do another because of the way that our narcissistic perspective compartmentalizes. We do not have to be consistent with regard to our behaviour so long as we are consistent with regard to the achievement of the prime aims. So, for instance, if you say to somebody, "I like your blue dress," or "I really like that grey shirt that you've bought," you're consistent in that, and you will maintain that view. The recipient takes that at face value, and accepts what you're saying. For us, we can say something and a moment later change our position entirely if that is what is necessary to achieve the prime aims, particularly with regard to the obtaining of fuel and control. Our lack of accountability, which is part of our narcissism, means that we are never held to what we say. We are never constrained by what we have done. If we wish to do a 180-degree turn, we will do so, and of course deny that we are making such a volte-face. If we wish to go back on what we have said, we will do so, and often deny that we are actually going back on it, or we will provide you with some kind of justification or explanation as to why that is happening. The justification and explanation, of course, will vary with regard to its plausibility, dependent upon the school of narcissist that you are dealing with. The Narcissist Conditional Asterisk exists with everything that you do with a narcissist, but you don't know that it exists until now. What I'm going to convey to you is what is implicit in every interaction that you have with the narcissist, and you've never known about it. But it enshrines the narcissistic perspective. Remember, lesser and mid-range narcissists don't know that this is the case. Graters and Iers the ultra know that it is. The majority of narcissists, being lesser and mid-range, don't realise this is what is happening, but it is, and this is what exists. And of course, until listening to this video, you were unaware that this was actually what was going on. You will have experienced it, but now this enshrines and makes clear for you, from the narcissistic perspective, what is actually going on. I'd like you to imagine a sheet of paper or parchment, and in the middle of this are the words, "I love you." That is all there is on this piece of paper. And if that was given to you from another person, you would accept that they are telling you that they love you. Where that is being provided to you by the narcissist, there is actually a huge asterisk next to "I love you." But you never see this because it's invisible, but it's there and we rely on it. That asterisk is the narcissist's conditional asterisk. Everything the narcissist says or does has this asterisk next to it, except you never see it. If the words or actions of the narcissist appeared on a piece of paper, the narcissist's conditional asterisk would always accompany those words. You see, if you turned this piece of paper over, you would discover the footnote, so the narcissist's conditional asterisk. You've never known about the existence of this footnote. This footnote is why you cannot and did not understand why the narcissist said what he said and did what he did. Fortunately for you, you are now being given access to what this footnote actually states to assist your understanding. Accordingly, if you turned over the piece of paper to discover this footnote, this is what it states every single time and is applicable to every single interaction that you have with the narcissist. The words or actions described over leaf are subject to the following. They can, and invariably will, be revoked at any time, for any reason, and or without reason, howsoever I choose, and without communication of the revocation to you, although I did communicate them to you, even if I did not, if such maintenance of communication is necessary. The words and actions mean precisely what I mean, and not what you think they mean. But they might mean A, but if I want them to mean B, then they will mean B, save where they need to mean A or C, or possibly A and C. And they never mean what you think they mean, but I will not tell you that, and of course I do not have to tell you that. If the words and or actions refer to a future event, then there is no guarantee or even likelihood that this future event will happen. In fact, there is no future event unless I decide there is a future event. And if you make reference to this future event, I am able to deny it without any liability, consequence, or accountability, and you are quite simply deranged and deluded for referring to it. The future event may come to pass if I deem it necessary, but it most likely will not. The words and actions are completely true, from my perspective, not yours, as of the moment of issuing them, but then they will disappear into the ether approximately 1 second thereafter. And if I wish to resurrect them, I shall do so, but on such terms and conditions as I see fit, without prejudice to my rights and entitlements, and without extreme prejudice, and, if necessary, malice aforethought with regard to you. You have no rights. I am under no obligation, and you have no right of action based on these words and actions, which of course were never said or done unless I decide that they were said or were done. There is no right of appeal and no basis for you relying on these words and actions, although I expect you to rely on them in order to ensure that you comply with your obligations towards me with regard to the fulfillment of the prime aims. Should you endeavour to make reference to these words and actions in circumstances which do not accord with my need for control and the provision of the prime aims, then such words and actions never existed, and you are quite simply crazy to ever suggest that they existed. No, this is not gaslighting. You have been reading too much into the situation and picking up terms that you do not understand. So you should not worry your pretty little head about such matters and sit down and shut up. Now. Any attempt to rely on the words and actions for any purpose which I deem contrary to my interests is an act of treason, sedition, and absolute disloyalty on your part, and you will be immediately tried, judged, and sentenced by me in the High Court of my rules, and subjected to an appropriate response in order to ensure that your sedition is both punished and quashed. Any attempt to relay these words and actions to a third party for the purpose of support or contradiction of my absolute rule is a further act of treason, sedition, and absolute disloyalty, and will be met by a further immediate trial, judgment, and sentence by me, even in the higher court of my rules, and will result in your punishment and smearing to said third party. I reserve the right to try, judge, and sentence the third party on whatever grounds I deem fit, in order to maintain control over you, the third party, and him over there as well. You can absolutely rely on what I have said, have done, or will do, because I need you to be conned into such reliance. But immediately I withdraw the words and actions without prejudice to my right to immediately reinstate them and maintain that they were never withdrawn in the first place, whenever it is necessary and appropriate for me to do so. As always, you have no recourse against me for such withdrawal, although there was never any actual withdrawal. Don't you remember? You don't? I told you that you were losing your mind. You need to get some help and see somebody. The moment the need for control has been established by the saying of the words and or the doing of the deeds, actions over leaf, then the words will no longer be acted on and will melt into nothingness, and the deeds, actions will no longer be maintained and will similarly vanish into the ether. It is neither an excuse or reason with any validity whatsoever to claim that you did not know about this footnote and the terms and conditions contained within. You are irrevocably bound by this footnote and the power of my asterisks, where, as I am neither bound at any time, and to claim you did not see it, did not know about it, and or did not understand it is quite simply pathetic, and you should be ashamed of yourself. I don't even see what I see in you, to say the words, which I may or may not have said dependent on the needs of the twin lines of the narcissistic defence, and or do the deeds actions, which I may or may not have done dependent again on the twin lines of the narcissistic defence. This footnote represents the entirety of the applicable terms, save those which I deem necessary to make up and add, as and when is required to further assert or maintain control over you and the pursuit of the prime aims. Those terms remain equally valid and apply retrospectively to a time at my absolute discretion. There are no waivers, exemptions, statutory safeguards, or common law loopholes that apply to this footnote, save those generated by me and for me. This footnote is to be interpreted in accordance with English, Mandarin, Swahili, and or Narc, and or any other language, including nonsense, gibberish, word salad, and circularity. This footnote is subject to the jurisdiction of no courts other than those of my invention. So ends, unless it does not end if I do not need it to end, the footnote to the Narcissists Conditional Asterisk.